Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. Hopkins County Sheriff's investigators and deputies arrested a Silver Springs man in Cumbie Friday morning. The man thought he was meeting a 15-year-old female for sex. Instead, Jeremiah Carnes, age 42, was arrested for online solicitation of a minor. Investigator Corley Weatherford said the sheriff's office had been using technology that is available to them to do undercover online investigation. They found Carnes to be online looking for young children, according to Weatherford. They began communicating online with Carnes. Carnes was identifying himself as being 38 years of age and named Douglas. Weatherford said Carnes solicited and wanted to meet a local 15-year-old child for sexual conduct of various sorts. A meeting between Carnes and the supposed minor was arranged to take place in Cumbie. Weatherford stated Carnes was not specifically targeting children in Cumbie, but that was where the investigation led for an appropriate place to meet. Carnes is in Hopkins County Jail awaiting a magistrate's hearing. A Department of Public Safety trooper observed a 2005 ZX6 Kawasaki motorcycle exceeding the speed limit on State Highway 154 at the 672 milepost. When he attempted to stop the motorcycle, the driver evaded in a high-speed pursuit into Wood County. Cody Lee Jordan, age 20, of Yantis, the driver of the motorcycle, turned down a farm-to-market road and then a county road before returning to Hopkins County on County Road 1439. He lost control of the motorcycle, crashed on the county road just south of FM 1567. Jordan was found to have an expired driver's license and not to have proof of financial responsibility for the motorcycle. Jordan is in Hopkins County Jail, charged with evading arrest, detention with vehicle, a state jail felony, driver's license expired, and failure to maintain financial responsibility. 2 Class C misdemeanor charges and a fine are the result of the arrest of an adult male dressed in camouflage and camouflage face, arrested Thursday morning after he was found in a field behind the Silver Springs Middle School. The man went before Justice of the Peace B.J. Tier Friday morning when he faced a magistrate's hearing that levied the fine. As parents dropped off children at the middle school Thursday morning, a Silver Springs police officer alerted our Silver Springs Independent School District police officer alerted Silver Springs Police to the presence of the suspicious individual behind the school. The school went into a soft lockdown, according to Rusty Harden, Silver Springs Independent School District Communications Director. Amber Michelle Morgan, age 36, was sentenced to 25 years in the Texas Department of Public Safety for burglary of a habitation. She was on parole for burglary of a habitation at the time she committed new burglaries. Because of her prior prison sentence, the punishment range in this case was enhanced from 2 to 20 years to 5 years to life. According to Assistant District Attorney Clay Harrison, if Morgan commits another felony in the future, she will be a habitual offender with a range of 25 years to life. In March of this year, Delta and Lamar County law enforcement had requested the assistance of Hopkins County investigators and deputies in an arrest and recovery of stolen property that solved 2 separate burglaries in their counties. All the stolen property was recovered, including guns, computer, and law enforcement also located methamphetamine at the residence on County Road 3568. Morgan was a convicted felon, was on parole, and her partner in this crime, Heidi Wasatowski, was sentenced in July of 2018 of this year to 15 years in prison. Justin Blaine Sicard, age 28, of Winsboro, was sentenced to 15 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Thursday morning in 8th Judicial District Court. Sicard accepted a plea agreement presented by Assistant District Attorney Clay Harrison. Sicard faced 1 count of manufactured delivery of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, more than 4 grams but less than 200 grams in a drug-free zone, and for possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, more than 4 grams but less than 200 grams. His first arrest was in April of this year when Special Crimes Unit initiated a traffic stop in the 300 block of Oak Avenue. He was arrested having 9.8 grams of suspected methamphetamine in his possession. He was arrested the following day while in jail. A warrant was served for his possession charges.
Now, weather permitting on Saturday, the Young Eagles Flight Rally will be held at Sulphur Springs Municipal Airport for children ages 8 to 17. Parent or guardian must be there to register the child. Ben Scarborough, who is the EAA coordinator for the Young Eagles flight, tells us more.
In hand, well, I have some of the items that the students will receive after their Young Eagles flight. Every year we have an annual Young Eagles flight where we give kids rides age 8 through 17, and we're doing that tomorrow from 9 o'clock to noon. And each student, after they complete their flight, receives a certificate of completion.
That's beautiful.
And then they have a logbook, and the pilot enters their flight into the logbook, and they can use this logbook for future flight training if they choose. There's a code on the back, and they enter this code on a website, and they get a free ground school, something that normally costs several $100s.
Wow.
And they can go through the entire ground school for the FAA written exam, and if they pass the exam, the Experimental Aircraft Association will reimburse them for the cost of the exam, which I think is about $75.
Okay.
So they can go all the way through that for no charge just by becoming a Young Eagle.
This is amazing. So why do you think the EAA wants to do this?
They want to share the aviation with the world, get more kids interested in flying, doing something more active, more scientific, instead of working their thumbs sitting on the couch, But people think about aviation, they think about planes and think it's something that they can never do. And that's not true. And we just want to show them how easy it is to fly and to become a pilot. And this gives them experience in a small plane. Many of them, it would be almost like a flight training time, and they can, if they're sitting in the front seat, they'll be able to handle the controls and do a little bit of flying themselves and things like that to show that it's not out of reach for them at all.
Well, out at our airport, there is a chapter that meets. That is EAA, is that right?
Yes. Originally, I think they called it the Sulphur Springs Sports Aviation Organization, so people would have a better understanding of what it is. But the Experimental Aircraft Association is a worldwide organization of people that are interested in aviation. It started out as through the home-built industry, people that were building their own aircraft, because that's what you had to do back years ago when there were no kits and things. Then that has mushroomed into kits that you can purchase that are almost complete. You just kind of bolt them together and go fly. And so there's military aircraft, vintage aircraft, all kinds of categories of aircraft that fit in that experimental category. It's not just home-built aircraft. So a lot of people interested in aviation are involved in that, and we have an active chapter here in Sulphur Springs. And we meet once a month, and this is one of our main activities to get more people interested in aviation, is giving free rides.
So the day is tomorrow, September 15th.
Right.
Rescheduled from last spring.
We tried last April, and we had bad weather. At the last minute, we had to cancel. We had people waiting to get on planes, but the weather didn't cooperate. And so this year, we've got hurricanes coming from every direction, but if the weather is similar to what it is this morning, we'll be okay. Mostly I'm concerned about fog, if it's foggy, and that limits the visibility. And we have to have, legally to operate an airport, you have to have 3 miles visibility and a 1,000-foot ceiling. Well, you can operate with that, but we're going to have 11 airplanes flying around and around the pattern, and we want better conditions than that. But if it's not raining, not foggy, and the wind's out of the right direction, not blowing too hard, we'll be able to fly.
So a parent or guardian will bring their child, ages 7 to 14?
8 through 17.
8 to 17, to the airport tomorrow morning between...
Well, they can arrive before 9 o'clock if they want to, and start the registration process. Registration is just completing a form that has to be signed by the parent or guardian, and then they'll go through a ground school. Julia Robbins is going to teach the ground school, where we put students in a room and she describes how airplanes fly. It's a safety seminar. Don't walk around the propeller and things like that, but instructions on what they're about to do, and just talks about how airplanes work, basically. And then they'll be escorted by the pilot out to the plane, and they'll make about a 15 or 20-minute flight, and then they'll come back in to the airport, where they'll receive their logbook and their certificate, and then they're dismissed, and the pilot gets the next load of passengers to go.
And you have served as a pilot in this...
I did for a couple of years in my home-built Breezy, but then I became the Young Eagles coordinator, and I was a little bit too busy to leave the ground. This year, I'm going to be flying a Cessna 150 and giving rides, and and I'm getting everything set up. But then Curtis Wright is going to take over as the on-the-ground Young Eagle coordinator for the event, so I can fly this year.
Okay, then. That's great and exciting for you. Have you experienced having a youngster in the plane, and when they get out, they just like are on a cloud? They're thrilled?
Every single one. Except my oldest grandson. He was I think he had his mind made up he wasn't going to like it when he got on the plane, and he was a little bit too young for it.
Cute. About how many youngsters generally come to one of these?
About 100. We've flown from numbers from 80 to about 120, I think, is the range of the number of kids that usually show up for it.
Amazing. Another amazing thing that Sulphur Springs does. So, have you followed a youngster that took an initial flight like this in the Young Eagles program and went on to become a pilot?
Matt Stewart from the Cumbie area became a pilot, and now he flies for the airlines. And he's based out of Tulsa right now. And he's still in his 20s, I think. We have Morgan Jocelyn, who graduated from North Hopkins recently, and he's in college now. But he started with our program. He now has his own airplane, and he's going to be giving rides tomorrow in a probably about a 1946 Taylorcraft, clipped wing Taylorcraft.
You mentioned a lot of airplane terms there. These 11 pilots that are going to be working tomorrow, donating their time, fuel expenses, etc., to this program, are bringing all kinds of planes.
We have several Cessnas. I'll be flying the Cessna 150. We have some Cessna 182s, which are 4-seat airplanes. The 150 is a 2-seat trainer. We have an R-172K, which is a souped-up military version of the 172 with a very powerful engine in it. We have, and of course, the Cessna 210s can carry 6 people, but we only carry 3 passengers at a time to make it a better experience. And we have several Pipers. That's the low-wing type that'll carry 4 people. And I think that's the most unusual plane we have is going to be Morgan Jocelyn's Taylorcraft.
Okay, so interesting. What might it? Well, we've gone through the part where the youngster gets the free flight, and then next it's up to them to make the next move, which might be to further their education through that code on the back of the book.
They can do the ground school. They're also honorary members of our local chapter. They can attend our meetings and be involved with aviation. And if you're hanging around a bunch of pilots, somebody's going to go flying, and you're going to have an excuse to get to go ride. And so if you're where the airplanes are, there's going to be an empty seat available. And if you just keep hanging around, you'll get some rides, get some flight time. But they can also become members of the EAA organization. They get a free 6-month membership for the national EAA group as well, and receive the magazine and everything.
When you started out with your interest in flying, was this when you were a youngster?
Yes.
Did you have such a program as this to start you off?
EAA existed, but nothing like this as far as rides. You just had to decide you wanted to fly and go find a flight instructor who was one of my first instructors was Dick Caldwell, Dick Miner, who was here at the radio station. And so I started my flight training here, continued some in Fort Worth, and then finished up here.
You were talking about, and flying is in your family.
Well, I was the first pilot. And then my dad became a pilot so that he could get a breezy aircraft, an open air plane, and built a runway in the backyard. And then this guy kept coming down to visit him, flying down from Sulphur Springs to visit him. But really, we found out he was coming to see my sister. And so they got married, and then she became a pilot. So, yeah, we've got some flyers around, and it's nice to have a runway in the backyard. That makes it a lot easier.
A runway in the backyard. Now, that's pretty unique. So you were mentioning planes, home-built planes. Do you have one of these? I
have a home-built. Didn't build it. Somebody else did, but purchased it. But there are many, many home-built airplanes out there in the air. Sometimes there's more home-builts than there are some models of certificated aircraft, and I don't say that correctly. They're all certificated aircraft, but I mean factory built. But home building is a very large industry in itself because people can build a plane and put in it what they want, and just it can be customized for them with engines, upholstery, instrumentation, things like that, high wing, low wing, fast, slow, off-field backcountry type planes or 250 mile an hour planes. They can build basically whatever they want under the supervision of the FAA.
So, of course, and that's what I would wonder, how well do they know what people are flying?
The FAA inspects each plane at different steps through the process, and they sign off that says that it's okay to fly the aircraft. So it goes through the basic similar certification to a factory-built plane. In a factory, they get the model certified by the FAA, and then that licenses them to go ahead and just continue building all they want, and the factory approves the planes. In home-built category, FAA has to approve every single plane individually.
Well, as a pilot, of course, with your interest in the Young Eagles program, which is tomorrow here in Sulphur Springs, and also as a pilot just flying for pleasure, what is it you most like to do?
Oh, a late afternoon flight around the lake is just gorgeous. Watch the sun go down, or maybe watch the sun come up. It's just beautiful to fly around when the conditions are really calm, and I like going to fly-ins where other people are flying, see all the different airplanes.
Where do you like to go on those fly-ins?
Well, I've been to Oshkosh, Wisconsin a couple of times on the Breezy, and there's fly-ins all over the place. There's one in Reclaw down toward Nacogdoches that's very well-attended fly-in out in the country on a ranch, and there's one in Greenville coming up. They're in Bonham. They're in Paris. They're just all around, especially this time of year. Almost every weekend you can go somewhere in October to go to a fly-in. There's 3 or 4 happening at the same time.
Are they all EAA?
No, some are put on by the city, some with landowners.
Okay.
The only Experimental Aircraft Association fly-ins that I'm aware of is the main one in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We used to have one out toward Kerrville called EAA Southwest, but that's been discontinued for several years. And there's one in Lakeland, Florida called Sun and Fun that's an EAA-sponsored event.
Well, it just sounds fascinating. And I know you're personally involved in it as a hobby and a career. So, once again, give us an invitation for tomorrow.
Tomorrow from 9 to noon at the Sulphur Springs Airport. We're giving free airplane rides to kids 8 through 17, and they need a parent or guardian to fill out the registration form, and they can stand out and watch all the planes taking off and landing and get a great experience in aviation.
It is through the EAA, and again, what that is?
Experimental Aircraft Association, our local chapter 1094.
Right here at Sulphur Springs Airport. Thank you very much, Ben Scarborough, for coming in. And just one little question as we finish up our time. Personal, what is your next big flight that you're going to take or plan?
Next big flight? Well, I haven't thought that far ahead. Okay. I haven't thought past tomorrow.
Okay.
That's been occupying all my time, but I hope to give several rides tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you.
Here's Don Julian with sports.
The Miller Grove Invitational Cross Country Meet took place Thursday with over 1,100 runners participating. The Miller Grove Hornets took first place, and the Miller Grove Lady Hornets placed second, just 3 points behind the top team from Pittsburgh. For the Hornets, freshman Isaiah Billingsley won the race with a time of 15:55. Teammate Grant Earp was second. Lance Davis was 5th, Tanner Hensley was 11th, Matt Brignan was 16th, and Lexton Sly was 28th. For the Lady Hornets, Joe Lee Fox was 3rd with a time of 12:22. Cassidy Shaney was 6th, Lauren Bullard was 11th, Alexa Pellerose was 37th, Lainey Burnett was 38th, and Harley Watson was 102nd. Miller Grove coach Gary Billingsley said the Invitational showcased some of the best runners in Northeast Texas. He said the varsity girls race featured Sienna Collins of Saltillo, who he said would go down as the most accomplished 1A runner in history. Collins did take first in the varsity girls race, winning with a time of 11:54. Collins also bested an Edgewood runner who had topped her in the recent North Hopkins race. The Saltillo Lady Lions finished 11th as a team, and other Lady Lions in their finishes were Reagan Spear in 25th, Christina Wade in 86th, Brianna Towell in 136th, and Chandler Bain in 145th.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.